On the afternoon of the 19th of June 2020, a group of teenagers in Seattle decided to try out a mobile app that had been trending on TikTok. The app was called Randonautica, and it promised to send users on random adventures to locations they would never normally visit. The teens opened the app, set their intention, and received a set of coordinates near Alki Beach in West Seattle. They walked to the location, filming their journey for TikTok. When they arrived at the rocky shoreline, they noticed a black suitcase partially hidden among the rocks. It was emitting a foul odor. One of the teens approached it cautiously and used a stick to open the lid. Inside was a black plastic bag. The smell was overwhelming. They immediately called the police. When Seattle police arrived and opened the suitcase, they found human remains. A second suitcase nearby contained more remains. The King County Medical Examiner's Office later identified the victims as Jessica Lewis, a 35-year-old mother of 4, and her boyfriend, Austin Wenner, 27. Both had been shot and killed days earlier. Their bodies had been dismembered and stuffed into the suitcases before being dumped at the beach. Welcome to Vanishing Threads. Today we're exploring Randonautica, the app that became a viral sensation during COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020. Was the Seattle discovery a horrific coincidence or something darker? And what exactly is this app that claims to use quantum mechanics to break people free from routine? Randonautica was created by Joshua Lengfelder and Auburn Salcedo, but its origins trace back to something called the Fatum Project. The Fatum Project was a research initiative that began in 2018, exploring theories about human consciousness, randomness, and what they called reality tunnels and stasis fields. The theory behind the Fatum Project is complex and philosophical. It proposes that humans live within reality tunnels, patterns of behavior and thought that limit our experiences to predictable, routine paths. According to the theory, we tend to visit the same places, take the same routes, and encounter the same types of experiences because we're trapped in these behavioral patterns. The theory suggests that a stasis field, a kind of causal force, keeps us locked into these patterns, preventing us from encountering true novelty or randomness. The Fatum Project theorized that by using truly random coordinates generated by quantum processes, people could break free from their reality tunnels and encounter genuinely novel experiences. The project created a Telegram bot that would generate random coordinates using a quantum random number generator, and users would travel to these locations to see what they found. In March of 2019, Lengfelder created the subreddit Randonauts to build a community around this concept. Users would share their experiences visiting randomly generated coordinates, often reporting strange coincidences or meaningful discoveries. In October 2019, developer Simon Nishi McCorkindale created a web page for the bot, making it more accessible. On the 22nd of February 2020, Randonautica launched as a mobile app. The timing was perfect, or unfortunate. COVID-19 lockdowns were beginning worldwide. Millions confined to their homes desperately sought adventure. Randonautica offered exactly that. The app uses the Australian National University's quantum random number generator, which measures quantum fluctuations in a vacuum to produce truly random numbers, not pseudo-random computer algorithms. These quantum numbers convert into geographical coordinates within a user-specified radius. Before generating coordinates, users set an intention, focusing on what they want to find. The app offers 3 location types: attractors, densely clustered quantum points; voids, sparse quantum points; and anomalies, strongest statistical deviation. The theory suggests consciousness might influence quantum randomness through mind-matter interaction. This is pseudoscience. No scientific evidence supports human consciousness influencing quantum random number generators. The app combines genuine quantum randomness with unsupported New Age concepts about consciousness. Despite the questionable theoretical foundation, the app became enormously popular in spring and summer of 2020. TikTok users began posting videos of their Randonautica adventures, documenting the strange, mundane, or occasionally unsettling things they found at their randomly generated coordinates. The hashtag Randonautica accumulated hundreds of millions of views. Users reported finding abandoned buildings, strange graffiti, unusual natural formations, and occasionally things that seemed to match their stated intentions in eerie ways. Someone who set their intention to death might find a dead animal. Someone focusing on love might encounter a heart-shaped rock. These coincidences, while easily explained by confirmation bias and the human tendency to find patterns, fueled the app's mystique. The app also had practical problems. Users who lived near bodies of water frequently received coordinates that fell in lakes, rivers, or oceans, making them impossible to reach. The app crashed frequently in its early months, and there were safety concerns. The app would sometimes direct users to private property, dangerous areas, or locations that were difficult to access. Then came the Seattle incident. On the 19th of June 2020, those teenagers found the suitcases containing Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner's remains. One of the teens, using the TikTok username Henry, posted a video of the discovery. The video showed the moment they opened the suitcase and realized what was inside. The video went viral, accumulating millions of views before it was eventually taken down. The discovery sparked intense media coverage and raised questions about the app. Had Randonautica somehow led the teens to the bodies? Was it a coincidence, or was there something more sinister at play? The facts of the case are straightforward. Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner had been killed by their landlord, Michael Dudley, 62, in a dispute over rent. Dudley shot both victims, dismembered their bodies, and disposed of the remains in suitcases at Alki Beach. He was arrested on the 22nd of July 2020, about a month after the bodies were discovered. In 2022, Dudley was convicted of 2 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 46 years and 8 months in prison. The bodies had been at that location for several days before the teens found them. The suitcases were visible from the beach and would have been discovered eventually by someone, a beachgoer, a jogger, or someone else walking along the shore. The fact that it happened to be teenagers using Randonautica was, by all rational analysis, a coincidence. Joshua Lengfelder, Randonautica's founder, responded to the controversy by emphasizing that the app's coordinates are truly random and that the app has no way of knowing what's at any given location. The coordinates are random, so it is the user's responsibility to adventure safely, he stated. The app's terms of service include warnings about exploring safely and respecting private property. But the Seattle incident wasn't the only unsettling story to emerge from Randonautica. Users on Reddit and TikTok reported other disturbing discoveries. Some claimed to have found abandoned buildings with signs of recent habitation. Others reported encountering aggressive animals or hostile people. A few users claimed to have been led to locations where they later learned crimes had occurred. One widely shared story involved a user in Mexico who was sent to coordinates near their home. They didn't visit the location immediately, but weeks later, they read news reports that bodies of kidnapping victims had been found at that exact location. The user posted about the coincidence on Reddit, expressing shock that Randonautica had generated coordinates for a location where bodies were later discovered. However, most of these stories are difficult to verify. They rely on user reports, often anonymous, with no corroborating evidence. The human mind is prone to finding patterns and meaning in random events, a phenomenon called apophenia. When millions of people are using an app that sends them to random locations, some of those locations will inevitably have dark histories or contain disturbing things. The question is whether these occurrences happen at a rate higher than chance would predict. There's no evidence that they do. The Seattle case is the only well-documented instance of Randonautica users discovering human remains, and in that case, the remains were in a public location where they would have been found regardless. The other stories, while unsettling, don't demonstrate any pattern beyond what probability would suggest. Critics warned the app encouraged dangerous behavior, younger users trespassing, exploring abandoned buildings, or venturing into isolated areas alone at night. One TikTok user, Rev Kalil, also known as Revo, claimed to find evidence of human trafficking at a California business park. The claims were never substantiated and appeared speculative. The incident showed how the app could fuel conspiracy theories and unfounded accusations. Despite controversies, Randonautica grew throughout 2020, downloaded millions of times. In April 2022, Lengfelder exited and Orban Salcedo became CEO. The app's popularity has waned since 2020, but maintains an active user base on Randonauts. From a scientific perspective, Randonautica is an interesting case study in how quantum mechanics can be misapplied to support pseudoscientific claims. The app does use genuine quantum random number generation. The ANU QRNG is a legitimate scientific instrument. However, the claim that human consciousness can influence quantum randomness through intention is not supported by scientific evidence. Quantum mechanics does involve observer effects and measurement problems, but these are specific technical concepts that don't translate to the kind of consciousness-based reality manipulation that Randonautica's theory suggests. The mind-matter interaction concept is drawn from parapsychology research that has not been replicated under rigorous scientific conditions. What the app actually does is send people to genuinely random locations. This alone can create interesting experiences because humans don't naturally behave randomly. We follow patterns, habits, and familiar routes. Being sent to a truly random location within your area means you'll likely visit places you would never normally go. This can lead to novel experiences and discoveries, but not because of any quantum consciousness effect, simply because you're going somewhere random. The coincidences that users report, finding things that match their intentions, are likely explained by a combination of factors. First, confirmation bias. Users remember the hits and forget the misses. If you set your intention to mystery and find something unusual, you remember it. If you find nothing interesting, you're less likely to post about it. Second, the Barnum effect. Vague intentions like change or mystery can be matched to almost any experience. Third, the sheer number of users. With millions of people using the app, some will inevitably have striking coincidences just by chance. The Seattle case, tragic as it was, illustrates this perfectly. The teenagers set their intention. Various sources report it was something like death or something dark, and found bodies. This seems like an impossible coincidence, but consider, the bodies were in a public location, they had been there for days, they were in obvious suitcases emitting a foul odor. Someone was going to find them soon. The fact that it happened to be Randonautica users who had set a dark intention is striking, but not statistically impossible given the number of people using the app. The case raised ethical questions about documenting discoveries on social media. The viral TikTok video raised concerns about respect for victims' families and potentially exploitative content. For Jessica Lewis's family, the discovery brought both closure and additional pain. Lewis's aunt, Gina Jaschke, told media that Lewis was a devoted mother who had been in a relationship with Wenner for 8 years. The couple had been struggling financially and had fallen behind on rent, which led to the fatal confrontation with their landlord. The fact that their deaths became part of a viral TikTok story added another layer of tragedy to an already horrific crime. Michael Dudley, the landlord who killed them, had a history of exploiting vulnerable tenants. During his trial, prosecutors described him as predatory and manipulative, targeting people in financial distress. Wenner's mother, Charlene Cryans, stated in court, "Dudley is a predator. He seeks out people in need for his own benefit. He is manipulative, calculated, who deserves to be punished to the fullest extent of the law." The Randonautica connection became a footnote to the actual crime, but it's the aspect that captured public attention. The case became known as the Randonautica murder, or the TikTok body discovery, even though the app had nothing to do with the murders themselves. This illustrates how technology and social media can shape the narrative around real tragedies, sometimes overshadowing the actual victims and the real circumstances of the crime. Developers maintain Randonautica is simply an exploration tool with safety disclaimers. It generates random coordinates. What users do with them is their responsibility. From a philosophical perspective, Randonautica raises interesting questions about randomness, free will, and the human desire for meaning. The app's popularity suggests that many people feel trapped in routine and are seeking novelty and adventure. The fact that users attribute meaning to random coincidences speaks to the human need to find patterns and significance in our experiences. The concept of reality tunnels, while not scientifically valid as presented by the Fatum Project, does capture something true about human psychology. We do tend to follow habitual patterns, and breaking those patterns can lead to new experiences and perspectives. You don't need quantum mechanics or consciousness-based reality manipulation to achieve this. Simply making a deliberate effort to visit new places or try new things will accomplish the same goal. The app also reflects broader trends in how technology mediates our relationship with physical space. GPS and mapping apps have changed how we navigate the world, often optimizing for efficiency rather than exploration. Randonautica represents a counter-trend, using technology not to optimize our routes, but to deliberately introduce randomness and inefficiency into our movements. As of 2025, Randonautica continues to operate, though with less cultural prominence than during its 2020 peak. The app has been updated with new features and improved stability. The community of users remains active, sharing their experiences and theories about the app's effects. Some users treat it as a serious tool for consciousness exploration, while others use it simply as a game or a way to discover new places. The Seattle case remains the most infamous incident associated with the app, but it hasn't been repeated. No other major crimes or disturbing discoveries have been linked to Randonautica in the years since. This supports the conclusion that the Seattle incident was indeed a tragic coincidence, rather than evidence of any supernatural or quantum consciousness effect. The story of Randonautica is ultimately a story about how we seek meaning and novelty in an increasingly predictable world. It's about the human tendency to find patterns in randomness and to attribute significance to coincidences. It's about how technology can be used to break us out of routine, even if the theoretical justification for how it works is questionable. The app works, not because consciousness influences quantum randomness, but because true randomness is genuinely different from human behavior patterns. Going somewhere random is an experience most people never have. We choose destinations based on purpose, familiarity, or recommendation. We don't just go to random coordinates. Randonautica forces that experience, and for many users, it's genuinely novel and interesting. But the app also serves as a cautionary tale about the risks of seeking novelty without considering safety. It's a reminder that the real world contains real dangers, and that randomly exploring unfamiliar areas can put you at risk. It's a lesson about the importance of verifying claims and not attributing supernatural significance to coincidences. For the families of Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner, Randonautica will always be associated with the discovery of their loved one's remains. For the teenagers who made that discovery, it was a traumatic experience that will likely stay with them for life. For millions of other users, it's simply an app that sent them on interesting walks around their neighborhoods. The dark side of Randonautica isn't supernatural or quantum. It's the mundane reality that random exploration can lead to random discoveries, and sometimes those discoveries are tragic. The app didn't create the tragedy in Seattle. It simply led someone to find it. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, stay curious, stay safe,